Hey, it's Valerie McDaniel. It's March 15th, 2017. I'm sitting outside. I wanted to take time and tell my story from the beginning. Try not to judge me.
Valerie McDaniel, a 46-year-old successful woman, had it all in her life, except for love. Then one day in 2015, she crossed paths with 37-year-old Leon Jacob, a confident doctor who seemed like the man of her dreams.
Valerie is one of the most amazing human beings that I've ever met. She was nice and kind and giving and educated and a great mother.
Valerie was content with him, living the life she'd always wanted in Houston, Texas. Their smiles held the hope of a wonderful future together. But was Leon truly the Prince Charming Valerie had been searching for in her life?
Without sounding like a pompous ass, I can only describe it as this. I've always understood women really well, and they've always liked me.
Just describe the moment you really noticed being attracted to her.
I saw her in a bathing suit. If you want me to be very open about it, that's when I first noticed that she was a knockout and that I was attracted to her.
But Valerie's friends had a gut feeling that something was off about Leon.
What do you like about him?
Very arrogant and full of himself. I've just never seen anything quite like that. And I've got a pretty strong intuition about people, and I did not feel good about it, and I let her know that.
Valerie was head over heels in love with Leon. Surprisingly, their world was turned upside down on March 10, 2017, when the police arrived at their apartment with the shocking news that Mac McDaniel, Valerie's ex-husband, had been found dead.
I'm afraid we have some bad news. Your ex-husband found it. Looks like it turns out to be a fatality. Looks like it might have been a robbery gone wrong. Sorry to have to tell you. Have you heard from him recently?
I was there last night.
You heard from him last night?
I was at the house last night.
There were such profound and shocking secrets in this story that on March 27, 2017, it ultimately drove Valerie to take her own life by jumping from her apartment balcony. So what could have happened that pushed her to make such a tragic decision? Also, was Mac dead? Valerie Busick McDaniel, born on January 12, 1969, hailed from the well-to-do family in Harris County, Texas, USA. She was more than just an average person. People who knew her couldn't help but praise her generosity, intelligence, creativity, and her all-around sweet and kind nature. As she grew up, Valerie was not only good-hearted, but also an exceptional student. In 1987, she soared to the top of her class, becoming the valedictorian of her graduating class at Episcopal High School, USA. Post-high school, her quest for knowledge led her to the University of St. Thomas in Houston, where she pursued her undergraduate degree. But Valerie didn't stop there. In 1997, she achieved a remarkable milestone by earning her doctorate in veterinary medicine from the prestigious Texas A&M University. Valerie's journey was one of both academic excellence and a warm, generous spirit. While at the same university, Valerie's path crossed with a man named Marion McDaniel, affectionately known as Mac. Love blossomed quickly between them, and in a whirlwind romance, they decided to tie the knot on August 16, 1997. They ventured into a married life in style, moving into a luxurious house generously provided by Valerie's parents. Valerie had a taste for the finer things in life, and their home was no exception. It was a high-rise condominium nestled in River Oaks, often dubbed the Beverly Hills of Houston. Their collection of luxury cars added to their glamorous lifestyle, and they even owned a charming beach house on Tiki Island. Valerie loved to host her friends there on the weekends, making it her personal paradise, sometimes without Mac by her side. It was the beginning of an exciting chapter in her story. Valerie did have a taste for luxury, but deep down her heart belonged to animals. This love led her to fulfill a dream, opening her own veterinary clinic, the Montrose Veterinary Clinic in Houston. Her husband Mac joined her in this venture, taking on the role of office manager. Starting a business is no walk in the park, and they both dedicated countless hours to making it a success. Unfortunately, their dedication came at a cost. They didn't have much quality time left for each other. As their marriage progressed, Valerie's friends and acquaintances noticed a change in her demeanor. She had a heavy heart, and many attributed this to Mac's harsh and abrasive language and his reluctance to engage in social gatherings. It seemed like he was never keen on joining in on any get-togethers, leaving Valerie feeling alone in her social pursuits. Dr. Brittany King, a veterinarian working alongside Valerie, witnessed her pain firsthand. She recalled, it would be just a text or a phone call, and then Valerie would be in tears. It's heart-wrenching to watch someone in so much pain. Despite the hardships, they clung to the hope of becoming parents. However, Valerie had a medical condition that prevented her from having biological children, but this didn't deter them. In a heartwarming decision, they chose to embrace adoption as a path to fulfilling their dreams of parenthood. It was finally in 2008, their dream came true, when they adopted a precious 2-day-old daughter. They had hoped it would strengthen their bond, but sadly, trouble followed soon after. Out of the blue, Valerie got a shocking phone call from a stranger, claiming to be Max's ex-girlfriend. What made it even more worse that this caller shared a list of names showing that Mac was cheating on Valerie with other women. It was a devastating revelation that shook their relationship to its core. When Valerie confronted Mac about his infidelity, he offered just a simple apology. It was a painful moment that deeply hurt Valerie. However, her love for him and the desire to keep their family intact led her to give him another chance. She didn't want to risk losing custody of their daughter, but sadly, it seemed that Mac's love for his wife had waned, and he didn't waste much time before betraying Valerie by cheating on her once again. After 17 years of marriage, Valerie had reached a breaking point. Her world was shattered when she came back home early and found out that Mac had been involved with another woman right in their own home. Valerie's emotions boiled over into pure rage, and for the first time she uttered the word divorce. In February 2014, she took a bold step by filing for divorce and asked for full custody of their 8-year-old daughter. It was a difficult decision, but Valerie knew it was time for a major change in her life. In her divorce petition, Valerie detailed a string of alleged infidelities, financial recklessness, and even violent behavior that she claimed Mac had been involved in. Valerie also shed light on the strained dynamics of their relationship, formally requesting legal protection. She wanted Mac to be restrained from using threatening, vulgar, profane, obscene, or offensive language when communicating with her. Their divorce proceedings reached a conclusion in August 2016, and Valerie ended up keeping the primary property in Houston, along with her cherished veterinary clinic. In contrast, Mac was granted the beach house and a substantial compensation of $1.2 million. To cover the compensation, Valerie had to take out a loan, which was a source of great distress for her. But eventually, she finally got custody of her daughter. During this challenging time, Mrs. Golda Jacob, Valerie's next-door neighbor, played a crucial role as her attorney, assisting her through the divorce process. Interestingly, Mrs. Jacob's 37-year-old son, Leon Jacob, was also living with her at the time. It was during this period that he got to know Valerie, setting the stage for a significant turn of events in their lives. One day, out of the blue, Leon showed up at Valerie's doorstep and introduced himself. At first, Valerie thought that he was a bit cocky and full of himself, but as they spent more time together, her opinion changed. She began to see Leon as not only good-looking, but also as a man who truly understood her. With him, Valerie felt a love and comfort she had never experienced with Mac. Leon, who was 8 years younger than Valerie and also a doctor, made her realize that life in her 40s still held plenty of adventures. She finally had a man who loved and paid her the attention she had always yearned for. Following her divorce, Valerie and her daughter made a move to a swanky apartment building in Houston. At the start, Valerie tried to keep her relationship with Leon low-key, but as time passed, Leon ended up moving in with them, which made Valerie appear genuinely content, and her friends and family were thrilled for her, especially after the difficult relationship she had endured before. However, Mac, her ex-husband, didn't share the same enthusiasm for Leon's presence. He was uncomfortable with the idea of Leon staying with his daughter, which stirred up tension and disagreements regarding their daughter's custody. So who exactly was Leon Jacob, and what was the past that would become a central factor in the unfolding events of our story? To understand everything, let's first delve into Leon's background. Leon Jacobs' journey began in 1980 in New Jersey. Born into a well-to-do family, his father was a skilled surgeon and his mother Golda Jacob was an attorney. Leon, the older of two sons, enjoyed a privileged upbringing and received an outstanding education at prestigious boarding schools during his formative years. However, life took a painful turn when tragedy struck at the age of 13, when Leon lost his father. Despite this hardship, Leon forged ahead, eventually choosing a path in medicine, following in his late father's footsteps. In 2021, Leon tied the knot with Annie Morrison, who worked as an attorney for a pharmaceutical company. Together, they welcomed two sons into their family, building what seemed like a happy life together. However, in March 2011, a few months after discovering they were expecting their second child, their world took a dramatic turn when Leon's residency was terminated because Annie had discovered he was having an extramarital affair with a mutual friend. She soon filed for divorce in 2013, after 12 years of marriage, citing experiencing extreme mental cruelty during their time together as the reason for this difficult decision. In the end, she also got custody of her two sons. But even after the divorce, Leon couldn't seem to let go of his obsession. He found himself in legal trouble, facing charges of stalking, cyber harassment threats, and incessant phone calls to his ex-wife, Annie.
Because I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt your parents right in front of you. Do you understand me?
His excuse was that he was desperate to talk to his sons, and he believed she was keeping them away from him. However, circumstances eventually forced him to move away from his ex-wife and children.
She went a little overboard with her complaints about me.
In 2014, he relocated to Pittsburgh to pursue his doctor's residency program. It was there that he crossed paths with Megan Verikas, who was 33 years old at the time, setting the stage for a new chapter in his life. The two first crossed paths at the hotel where Megan worked, and despite their initial meeting, it didn't take long for love to bloom between them, and they decided to move in together. Their journey led them to Houston, where Leon embarked on a new residency program. They seemed to be living a lavish lifestyle, enjoying vacations, fancy dinners, and extravagant outings. However, it turned out that Megan was the sole financial provider for all these luxuries, and Leon contributed neither personally nor financially. What's truly intriguing was this was not Leon's first attempt at residency. In fact, it was his 7th. The startling fact is that he had been dismissed from every previous residency program he had been a part of. This aspect of Leon's past becomes a pivotal and fascinating element of his story. Leon's downfall in previous residency programs was largely due to his problematic attitude. He had a habit of coming across overly confident, acting like he was the absolute best. In class, he consistently showed disrespect to his professors and fellow students, but his issues went beyond arrogance. He never received an offer for a second residency year at St. Vincent's due to his unreliability, inability to stay focused, and distracting behavior. What's even more concerning was that his behavior was not just bad, it was noted as bizarre and alarming. Leon's behavior in those residency programs raised serious concerns among his fellow residents. They reported that Leon posed as a real threat, especially to patients.
He's a danger as a physician, and he's also a danger out in the community.
As a result, hospitals chose not to renew his contract, and on January 23, 2009, the University of Texas Health Science Center delivered the final blow, notifying Leon that his residency wouldn't be renewed. The reasons were clear: Leon's inflated sense of grandiosity, which clouded his decision-making, his lack of insight on professional conduct, and his tendency to be argumentative and confrontational. Adding to his list of troubles, Leon also had harassed a female physician at the institution by bombarding her with relentless phone calls. He demanded her to retract a statement she had made against him. This harassment escalated to such an extreme level that the physician had no choice but to confide in her supervisor about it. The situation reached a breaking point on February 25, 2011. When authorities had to intervene, Leon was forcefully removed from the premises of Northside Medical Center in Ohio and given a stern warning never to come back. This marked his 6th residency program, and just like the previous 5, he had been shown the door. The common thread was his overconfidence, even in the face of his limited abilities. Leon seemed unwilling to learn because he believed he already knew everything there was to know. This pattern of behavior and arrogance became a reoccurring theme in his medical career. In 2012, Leon's behavior took a disturbing turn, moving from problematic to downright criminal. He faced charges for breaking into the home of the head of the residency program that had previously dismissed him. But the trouble didn't end there. In 2014, he found himself in legal trouble again. This time charged with cyberstalking and harassing his ex-wife, Annie. This resulted in a sentence of 11 months in jail, though in the end he ended up serving only probation. Leon's record spanned across 4 states and included a long list of charges. These include a minimum of 8 counts of assault on family members, 13 counts of harassment, 4 counts of terrorist threats, burglary, kidnapping, aggravated assault, violation of protection orders, and more. All of these alarming details about Leon's history played a pivotal role in Mac, Valerie's ex-husband, wanting to keep his daughter away from Leon. Clearly, Leon's past issues raised serious concerns about his suitability and state of mind. It had been 3 years into their relationship, and Megan began to uncover the hidden aspects of Leon's life that he had tried so hard to keep secret. Despite his efforts, Megan gradually pieced things together until she knew everything. When she finally confronted Leon about it, things took a violent turn. Leon, known for his fiery temper, erupted in attack against Megan. At that moment, Megan reached her breaking point and made a firm decision. She had enough, and she promptly kicked Leon out of her apartment. Megan made some serious allegations against him, including claims of physical assault, verbal abuse, and even an instance where he covered her mouth. Of course, Leon vehemently defending himself, insisting that these accusations were entirely untrue, setting the stage for a tense and conflicting situation.
I was simply trying to calm. We were fighting. I shouldn't have put my hand even near her face. I didn't touch her in any way.
Even after their troubled breakup, Leon continued to keep Megan in his sights. In February 2017, he faced charges of stalking and assault in connection with Megan.
Kept on pursuing her, despite the fact that she told you not to.
I kept on pursuing her for a little bit, yeah.
This wasn't just a one-time occurrence. It happened repeatedly. There was even a 911 call from a concerned coworker who reported that someone was trying to stalk her boss, and it left her feeling frightened and uneasy.
The person is stalking my boss. So when we came out of work just now, she tried to duck down and then got in his car and tried to leave. He circles back around. That's what I'm saying. Like, since the previous time that we called over 20 minutes ago, he's actually managed to come back by the property.
But Leon was adamant in refusing to accept any of the charges against him. He staunchly denied everything, holding on to the belief that he was the upstanding man he saw himself as.
Caught you loitering outside her office,
Waiting.
she says in the bushes.
She says that. People can claim a lot of things, right?
This was the point where Leon's true character began to surface. While Leon may not have been the exceptional doctor he believed himself to be, his career meant the world to him. In 2017, while facing charges of stalking and harassment by the police, his lawyer delivered a harsh reality. If Megan testified against him in court, he could lose his medical license forever, which would end his career as a doctor. And of course, Leon couldn't bear the thought of his carefully constructed image as a great doctor and a remarkable person falling apart. So, driven by this fear, he made a shocking decision. He sought out a hitman to eliminate Megan from the equation. For this, Leon met up with a man named Motez Azeh, a fellow U.S. Army veteran. Through a mutual acquaintance, Leon hired Motez, who often went by the name Zach, for a disturbing task. He wanted Megan kidnapped to stop her from testifying against him in court. For this dangerous job, Leon paid Zach $9,000. However, Zach maintained a firm denial that he had ever entertained the idea of taking money to harm another person. He adamantly asserted that he was not a violent individual. Leon's scheme had 3 distinct phases. Initially, Zach's task was to abduct Megan and instill such fear in her that she chose not to reunite with Leon. If this tactic failed, they would proceed to phase 2, which involved frightening Megan by any means necessary, pushing her to leave town and avoid the court proceedings, effectively disappearing from their lives. And if despite all efforts Megan remained resolute, phase 3 represented the dire last resort. She would have to be killed. And for that, Leon provided Zach with various methods to carry out Megan's potential murder, including one particularly sinister suggestion: injecting a syringe of potassium directly into her heart to trigger a fatal heart attack. Surprisingly, when Leon approached Zach with this disturbing request, Zach viewed it as not as an opportunity to harm someone, but as a chance to save a life. Zach did indeed accept the money from Leon, taking it for himself, but he had zero intention of causing harm to anyone. Zach had no regrets about taking Leon's money under false pretenses. As Leon anxiously awaited Zach to carry out his plan, Zach unexpectedly disappeared and left town without harming Megan in any way. This left Leon in a state of panic, not only because he had lost $9,000, but because also Megan was still alive and could potentially expose his dark past, which could tarnish his name further. So to get out of this and being desperate to locate Zach and salvage his sinister plan, Leon turned to a well-known bail bondsman, Michael Kabosh, who had assisted him in previous legal matters.
Well, I bonded somebody out of jail, and his name happened to be Leon Jacob.
Leon also asked Michael to track down Zach, as he had some unfinished matters with him.
And I said, well, why do you need Zach? And he said, I've paid him a lot of money to take care of this matter.
Whereas Michael in turn reached out to the police for assistance in finding Zach. However, there was a bit of a challenge because Zach's real name was Muatz Azeh, so it took some time for the authorities to finally track him down. It was during this investigation that for the first time, police uncovered the full extent of Leon's sinister intentions. Zach clarified to the police that he never intended to harm anyone. Instead, he believed it was his duty to take that money from Leon and prevent it from falling into the hands of someone who might actually harm Megan. However, the police had their doubts about Zach's story, although they were convinced of Leon's guilt due to his troubled history and the clear attempt to harm Megan. Still, there was a problem. They lacked concrete evidence to prove it in court, and in such high-profile cases, it's important to focus on each and every little detail. So, instead of immediately acting on Zach's statements, the police decided to devise their own plan. And for that, they approached Zach and asked him if he would cooperate in catching Leon red-handed, and Zach agreed to help. With the use of a wiretap, the police set up a call between Zach and Leon, allowing them to eavesdrop on their entire conversation. During the call, Zach told Leon that he wasn't suitable for the task and suggested that Leon should seek out someone else for whatever plan he had in mind. And for that, he even knew a hitman who would be capable of doing whatever he wanted.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Hey, listen, I'm gonna set up a meeting with you tomorrow so we can finish this, okay?
Okay.
And I'm gonna bring with me the Navy SEAL guy because he wants, so we can get this done.
During this time, Leon was also in a relationship with Valerie, and they were sharing a life together. Now, due to Leon's troubled history, Valerie's ex-husband, Mac, wanted to regain custody of their daughter. However, Valerie was fiercely protective of her child and didn't want to give her up to Mac under any circumstances. So here, Leon saw this as an opportunity and persuaded Valerie that the real issue for her was Mac and that he could potentially tear their family apart and take her daughter away in the future. This was happening at the same time that Leon was having a second conversation with Zach, and seeing an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, he proposed a startling deal.
We're taking care of both problems.
What, both problems?
Both of the individuals that we're talking about. I'm talking about my issue and Valerie's issue.
At this moment, Zach found himself in a confusing situation and was not entirely sure what Leon meant. So, he asked for clarification from Leon about what the second problem was, and Leon's response was quite shocking. Leon stated that he wanted Valerie's ex-husband, Mac, eliminated as well. What made it even more astonishing was that Leon claimed that Valerie was completely on board with this plan, and she also wanted Mac to be taken out of the picture.
Are they both going to be taken care of?
Yeah. We'll talk about it tomorrow. He'll take care of them.
He'll take care of both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want her to leave, and I want my legal problems to go away. Valerie wants to talk to you about what she wants to do with her ex-husband.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, but Megan will be taken care of too this week?
Yeah.
I want that taken care of ASAP too.
No, we'll take care of it.
Piece. That with the daughter. He won't give her back. She's headed over there to the police. He's a piece of... I worry about this in-person stuff because I worry about that I'm being set up to get here too. But I gotta trust you.
Okay, what you need to understand from my side, I'm worrying about being over the phone. That's how people get caught on the phone.
But one thing Leon was unaware of was that the new hitman he was dealing with was actually a professional undercover police officer named Javier Duran from the Houston Police Department. Javier's mission was to gather evidence against Leon for plotting not just one, but 2 murders. So the following day, they arranged to meet Leon and Valerie at an Olive Garden restaurant. Over bowls of soup and sandwiches, they delved into the discussions about the sinister plans for these hits.
It's independent of me.
Leon's very intelligent. He was being very cautious with the words that he would use. So he never came out and said, I want her dead. I want you to kill her. He also would say things like, I don't want her hurt.
As Leon finished outlining his part of the dark plan, Javier turned his attention to Valerie to learn her intention regarding Mac's fate. During a 2-hour lunch conversation, Valerie and Javier discussed the grim details of how Mac might meet his end. Valerie cautiously asked, let's say something were to happen to him. What would it look like? Could it be a car accident? At this, Javier offered various possibilities, suggesting that it could resemble a tragic car wreck or a botched robbery. Valerie expressed her deep fear that Mac would take her daughter away from her, and that she felt cornered with no other options left. Shockingly, Valerie didn't shy away from the sinister plan. Even she actively agreed to have Mac killed. As they discussed the details, Valerie seemed to believe that Mac would fall victim to a carjacking and end up with a fatal gunshot to the head. Although she hesitated a bit as the lunch drew to a close, she ultimately gave the green light for this horrific plot. It could have been a successful plan, but what they failed to realize was how suspicious it would appear to the police.
Narcissistic behavior, bipolar, and a couple other syndromes. I don't think he understood the consequences of what he was doing.
In such cases where hitman targets both the ex-girlfriend and ex-husband of a current couple, law enforcement would naturally become suspicious. When initial leads and primary suspects are elusive, investigators often turn their attention to ex-partners, suspecting their involvement in the murders.
I think that plays into his mental illness and his personality disorders. He spent some time in a facility here in Houston.
The next day, on March 9, 2017, Detective Javier paid Leon and Valerie a visit, unveiling a set of disturbing photos. One depicted Mark in his car, blood-soaked, while another showed him sprawled on the pavement, with blood on his face and a bullet wound to his head. These pictures perfectly mirrored their discussion, creating the illusion of a robbery or a carjacking gone horribly awry. Leon and Valerie had genuine confidence that their problem was finally solved. If you're wondering the same, whether Mac had met his demise, and this marked the conclusion of our tale, you're in for a surprise. The twist is, Leon and Valerie's problems weren't disappearing anytime soon. In fact, things were about to get seriously intriguing, because Mac was very much alive. After the Olive Garden meeting, Detective Javier reached out to Mac, revealing all the sinister plans concocted by Leon and Valerie. To make the photos convincing, they used pig's blood and enlisted a makeup artist to create a realistic bullet wound. Mac, on board with the plan from the start, determined to cooperate fully with the authorities to expose their scheme. However, Mac was utterly shocked by the revelation. When the police informed him about Valerie's plot to have him killed, he couldn't believe it. He acknowledged their troubled history, but couldn't fathom that things had escalated to the point where she'd hire a hitman. It was a side of Valerie he never expected to see. Meanwhile, Leon and Valerie, unaware of Mac's cooperation with the police, remained hopeful that their plan would succeed and were now eagerly anticipating the news about Megan's fate. And it didn't take long, as on that very night, Leon and Valerie's phones pinged with picture messages from Javier. These photos depicted Megan with her hands bound and duct tape across her mouth, eyes filled with terror. What Leon and Valerie didn't know was that Megan had been informed of the plan and was cooperating with the police. However, shortly after sending those photos, Javier made a distressing call to Leon, claiming that Megan had become uncontrollable leaving him with no choice but to take her life.
I sent you a picture of her. Do you want me to take care of her myself?
You have to do that.
You should see how Megan is acting. She's she's not very cooperative. I'm just gonna have to put a bullet in her myself. I need an answer.
Well, I don't want her hurt, but if she's gonna go to the cops, and does she understand what's gonna happen to her if she doesn't leave?
I'm pretty sure she knows I'm not playing with her.
The reason why Megan's reactions in those photos were incredibly authentic was because she experienced a genuine meltdown. The gravity of the situation hit her hard. She understood that if Leon's sinister plan had succeeded, she might have faced a terrifying reality, being kidnapped and potentially losing her life. The next day, on March 10, 2017, around 3 a.m., the police arrived at Valerie and Leon's apartment with body cameras rolling, ready to record the reactions. It was the moment they had to deliver the grim news to Valerie. Her ex-husband, Mac, had become the victim of a shooting, and tragically, he was no more.
I'm afraid we have some bad news. Her ex-husband's been found. It looks like it turns out to be a fatality. Looks like it might have been a robbery gone wrong. Sorry to have to tell you. Have you heard from him recently?
I was over there last night.
You heard from him last night?
I was at the house last night.
The police noticed something rather strange when they delivered the heartbreaking news. Valerie, a skilled veterinarian, but certainly no actor, seemed oddly composed. Her reaction, or lack thereof, didn't match what you'd expect from someone in her situation. She appeared rather cold, as if she didn't quite know how to act to convince the officers that she was genuinely shocked and saddened by the news. As Leon entered the scene, the officers informed him too about Mac's tragic passing.
It was not what you would expect in reality. And you want to know, are you sure it's my ex-husband? How do you know this? You definitely have a lot of questions and, a lot of grief.
Did your husband have any memories that you know of anybody that might have wanted to harm you?
Now your boyfriend, is he awake?
You might want to let him know what's going on, and I'm sorry. Our ex-husband's been found tonight.
Oh my God.
It looks like might have been a robbery gone wrong. If anybody knows anything, or
No,
might be able to help us.
Are you okay, baby?
It seems that Leon was a somewhat better actor than Valerie in this situation. He quickly tried to comfort Valerie and appeared genuinely shocked by the news. However, his newfound acting skills were short-lived, as he made a crucial mistake by casually mentioning that he had been at home all day.
You've been here all night. You were here all day with your daughter.
This comment raised suspicion for the police, because it seemed like he was overly eager to provide an alibi, a behavior often associated with individuals who may have something to hide.
I never met him except for once.
What's your name?
My name's Leon Jacob. I'm her boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
What he wants to do is establish an alibi, let you know right away it's not him. And then feigning that surprise, it was all rehearsed, in my opinion.
The police let Leon and Valerie continue their amateur acting for a few more moments, perhaps relishing their attempts to put on a show. The couple did their best to feign sorrow and shock. But then, in a twist for Leon and Valerie, they dropped the bombshell. Both Megan and Mac were alive, and they both actively participated in creating those fake photos. The shock that spread across Leon and Valerie's faces this time was genuine, as the unexpected twist left them speechless, and they realized they were in serious trouble. As Valerie was led away from her apartment, she came face to face with Mac, who had been patiently waiting outside. He was there to take his daughter back home, and Valerie had no choice to hand over her sleeping daughter to Mac. It was a heart-wrenching moment, and little did Valerie know it would be the last time she saw her daughter. Both Valerie and Leon were arrested on charges related to murder conspiracy.
Can I put some on your way? Yeah, we're gonna take care of you, okay? Move your arms away from your neck real quick. I don't know why I'm being arrested. I mean, I don't know why I'm being arrested. Okay, well, he just told you.
Leon, on the other hand, couldn't make bail due to his past charges involving Megan. Meanwhile, Valerie was granted bail and she returned home, awaiting her upcoming trial. After making bail, Valerie was stuck under house arrest, with the relentless press besieging her apartment building. She was under constant surveillance by cameras and reporters hungry for sensational stories. The most painful loss was her daughter, a heartache beyond measure. As each news story circulated, more and more people discovered the truth about her actions, and Valerie felt trapped, with no way out. Her world had collapsed, and the walls of her apartment seemed to close in as the public scrutiny intensified. It was a situation she couldn't escape, and the future looked bleak. Her once comforting space had become a prison, with no one to offer solace, not even her beloved daughter. To make matters worse, her veterinary license was suspended, cutting off her ability to work. The weight of her circumstances was becoming unbearable, and she longed for relief from the unending ordeal. At this time, Valerie battled intense emotions and spiraled into a deep depression. She reached out to some of her colleagues who couldn't help but notice her overwhelming emotional state and profound sadness during their meeting. In hindsight, they understood that this encounter was Valerie's way of bidding them a final farewell. Sadly, on March 27, 2017, Valerie faced a devastating moment of despair. She made the fateful decision to jump from her 7-story apartment balcony.
Yellow crime scene tape surrounded the gates of this high-rise in River Oaks where veterinarian Dr. Valerie McDaniel took her life this morning by jumping from the building onto a courtyard. Police do not suspect foul play.
There was nobody home. It was reported it was someone that either worked at inside the apartment complex or condominium complex, and they reported to police that there was a body laying out there. They didn't know if she was asleep or what until the officers came out and found her.
The Harris County District Attorney's Office says her fingerprints helped positively identify her this afternoon.
Co-workers, family, friends, and those who took their animals to the clinic right behind me, in which McDaniel owned, described her as compassionate, kind, and worked very well with their pets. And they say that they're in disbelief about not only her death, but the entire situation.
I'm just really so sorry that this happened, and it's really made me sad today. I think she was a kind and compassionate person, and that's how I knew her. She was just excellent care of all the animals, and just a kind person.
But that wasn't all. During the police search of Valerie's apartment, they discovered a voice message, the only trace she left behind. It was a poignant recording made just moments before her fateful leap.
Hey, it's Valerie McDaniel. It's March 15th, 2017.
In this message, Valerie poured out her heart, revealing her profound love for Leon and her deep affection for her daughter. Her voice held the weight of her emotions as she tried to explain the complex feelings that had brought her to this tragic point in her life. She expressed her deep regrets, clarifying that she never intended for events to spiral out of control. She didn't want harm to come to Mac, but she also couldn't bear the thought of losing her daughter. Valerie had once dreamt of a beautiful future, but her actions had led her down a tragic path. In the final recording, she tried to convey that, despite the circumstances, she wanted people to know she wasn't the monster her actions might suggest.
I'm sitting outside, and I wanted to take time and tell my story from the beginning. Try not to judge me.
48-year-old woman trying to start to date. Not a good thing.
I was lonely, and he kept me company. He listened to me. It was everything I needed. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I hate the idea that everybody thinks I'm a monster.
Valerie knew that there was a daunting road ahead, and that the legal battle and the tarnished reputation would be incredibly challenging. Her friends and family were shocked because they knew a different Valerie, one they couldn't believe was capable of these actions. They realized that she couldn't bear the weight of her deeds and chose to end her life for a sense of freedom. Her colleagues from the vet clinic held cherished memories of the special person she once was in their lives.
Valerie hired me straight out of vet school in 2001. And so she really taught me a lot. And she was not only a mentor, but a great, great friend of mine. And she was always willing to help me do whatever I needed.
Where everyone mourned for Valerie's demise, the person she cherished most, Leon, notably distanced himself from the grief In an unexpected and rather cold response, he remarked, "It's nothing to do with me. She took the easy way out. I can't be held responsible for her actions. I didn't ask her to get involved. It was her ideas. She got me involved, and she had to face the consequences of her own actions." On March 20th, 2018, Leon found himself on trial, facing 2 counts of solicitation of capital murder. As the legal battle unfolded, Leon's defense adopted a somewhat predictable strategy. With Valerie no longer present to defend herself, they attempted to shift the blame entirely on her shoulders. Their narrative painted Valerie as the mastermind behind every stage of the sinister plot, leaving Leon as the manipulated and unwilling participant in her alleged schemes. The prosecution, however, had 2 powerful witnesses, Valerie's ex-husband Mac and Leon's ex-girlfriend Megan, who was already involved in an ongoing case against Leon. When Megan took the stand, she didn't hold back, describing Leon as a criminal who subjected her to troubling incidents like grabbing her by the mouth, assaulting her, and stalking her. She testified that Leon had a controlling nature and always needed to assert dominance in every situation. Megan's bold testimony must have frustrated him to no end. When it was Leon's turn to testify in court, he took a rather peculiar stance and said, "I didn't ask Zach or Javier to kill anyone. I was not involved in any plot or conspiracy to murder. I am the one who is taking the blame for Valerie." Furthermore, the defense team argued that the police were overly eager to execute a successful undercover operation. They claimed that Javier had been instructed to lead Leon into suggesting ways to harm Megan. The defense's perspective painted Leon as the victim of an overzealous police force that seemed determined to make him confess to wanting Megan dead. The prosecution strongly opposed defense, emphasizing that when Leon saw those disturbing photos of terrified Megan, he didn't lift a finger to stop them from harming her. Not once did he ask Javier to spare her or prevent any harm. It appeared as if he was content with her being killed to protect himself. In a final blow, the prosecution unveiled Leon's dark past to the jury. They laid bare how he had not only stalked Megan, but also his ex-wife, Annie, exposing his undeniable pattern of controlling behavior. After a little over an hour of deliberation, the jury returned to the courtroom, and in April 2018, the inevitable verdict of guilt was announced.
We, the jury, find the defendant Leon Philip Jacob guilty of solicitation of capital murder as charged in the indictment signed by the foreman of the jury. Cause number 1543812. We, the jury, find the defendant Leon Philip Jacob guilty of solicitation of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
The sentencing hearing followed shortly after, and in a clever move, the prosecution called upon Leon's ex-wife, Annie, as a witness.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Annie Morrison.
Do you know an individual by the name of Leon Jacob?
He's my ex-husband.
They questioned her about her past experiences with him during her pregnancy. She had something significant to share.
Yes, there was a time that we got into a fight and he pulled a knife on me.
She said, "He wasn't physically violent to me at first. He used to just throw things around the room. He was verbally abusive to me, but his behavior got worse. He used to grab me, push me, and one time, I remember he grabbed me by my head and pushed it into the kitchen counter so hard that it bruised my face. I don't recall what the fight was about, but I remember him threatening to punch me, and then he started kicking my legs."
I don't recall what the fight was about. I recall we were in our apartment and that he was threatening me with the knife.
I was trying hard to protect my stomach and the baby. He said that if I ever left him, he would kill me and nobody would ever find my body. After hearing Annie's testimony, there was no escaping the consequences for Leon. In March 2018, he was handed a life sentence for both counts of soliciting capital murder, and his chance for parole won't come until 2047, when he'll be 69 years old. Megan expressed her thoughts on the sentencing, saying, "I couldn't see it at the time, but looking back, I believe Leon manipulated me. He used his look and his seeming charms to persuade me to leave my family, my home, the life I built in Pittsburgh. I lost everything, my career, friends, colleagues, all as a result of his controlling behavior. But now the girl he called poor and uneducated is responsible for him going to prison for a very long time. Leon's future is now marred by a life behind bars. He won't experience his children's growth or return to the world of medicine. He is incarcerated, and parole isn't even on the horizon until 2047. Surprisingly, his time behind bars hasn't brought a significant transformation in him. Leon once pondered from his prison confines, questioning the unpredictability of life, where violence can suddenly emerge. He finds it odd that he is now surrounded by the very criminals he once treated as a doctor. Leon vehemently refuses to accept responsibility for his crimes. He maintains that he was wrongly convicted and that Valerie masterminded the murder plots. In his eyes, he was a doctor who healed, not a monster who murdered. He even envisions a movie about these events, with Bradley Cooper as the actor portraying him, noting their physical resemblance. Well, we'll leave it to you to decide if Leon really looks like Bradley Cooper. Megan and Mac had finally found peace and moved forward from their troubled past, relieved to have Leon out of their lives. It's a sad truth that many women who crossed paths with Leon ended up worse for it, despite his charm and charisma. Beneath his exterior, he proved to be nothing more than a common criminal, specializing in domestic abuse. Yet Valerie McDaniel's role remains a complex puzzle. Was she a victim of Leon's manipulation, or did she willingly participate in a plot to take two lives? The line between victim and accomplice in her case is a blurry one, making it challenging to fully understand her role in this tragic story. Valerie unfortunately could never share her side of the story, but the evidence paints a complex picture. She was captured on tape alongside Leon, expressing her desire for her ex-husband's demise. Her attempt to act shocked when the police arrived at her apartment makes it challenging to argue that she wasn't a willing participant in this sinister plot. However, her actions could have been out of character, given her strong and determined nature. She was not a weak person. She fought for what she wanted in life. She wasn't old, and she had many years ahead of her. Perhaps the fear of sharing custody of her beloved daughter with Mac, fueled by Leon's influence, pushed her into a dark and unexpected path. Even today, those who knew Valerie refused to accept that she was a bad person. They believed that she was under the control of Leon, manipulated into a dark path. Many argue that it was he who hatched the murderous plot, not her. In this intricate story, one character's identity has remained hidden throughout: Valerie's daughter. She's fortunate to have one parent left to care for her, but she will grow up knowing that her mother loved her deeply. Yet she'll also learn of the unusual circumstances that led to her mother's profound unhappiness and the tragic event that unfolded when she jumped from a 7th-floor balcony. It's a tale filled with complexities and unanswered questions. Now, it's up to you to decide whether Valerie was a victim caught in a web of manipulation or a willing participant in this intricate tale. This story presents a complex narrative with differing perspectives, leaving room for interpretation. If there's a case you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to drop your recommendations in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled for the next mystery to unfold.